Welcome to Learning English, where you are ready to level up your language skills. Here we learn through stories that are slow, clear, and engaging. Just listen, relax, and enjoy the journey. To begin, something very important has occurred that countries all over the world are watching and discussing. The President of America, Donald Trump, is now in his second term as the leader of the country. He addressed the world after American military aircraft attacked several locations in Iran. President Trump announced that these attacks were a success. He stated that America's actions had stopped Iran's ambitions to develop nuclear weapons. He informed everyone that because of the strikes, Iran could no longer create these dangerous weapons. However, shortly after President Trump's speech, conflicting information began to surface. Some individuals and agencies had a different account of what happened. Their information did not align with the president's words. This created confusion among the public. As people did not know which account was accurate, this story will examine the aftermath of the American attacks. We will review what President Trump said, and we will also look at the other information that was released. We will attempt to understand why these different versions of the story exist. We will consider what truly happened to Iran's nuclear plans. This is a complex question because the truth is difficult to determine. The locations in Iran that America attacked were heavily fortified and deep underground. It is not simple to assess the damage that the attacks caused. For this reason, various people in government and in different nations have different interpretations of the outcome. This story will help us comprehend the situation. We'll learn about the differing opinions and their implications. We will explore the central question: what really happened after the attacks? We will also consider what this event signifies for Iran, for America, and for peace throughout the world. Understanding these matters is crucial because they have the potential to alter the future for many people in numerous countries. This is the beginning of the story too. The president's words, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, addressed a global audience. He spoke about the recent U.S. military actions taken against Iran. The president declared that these actions were a tremendous success. He used powerful language to describe the outcome. He informed the world that the U.S. military had performed a magnificent job. President Trump claimed that Iran's ambition to build nuclear weapons had been halted. He said the strikes set back Iran's nuclear program significantly. By how much? He specified that it was delayed by many, many years, using the word decades. A decade is 10 years, so his meaning was that it would take 20, 30, or even more years for Iran to resume its work. He was very certain about this. He went on to make an even stronger claim. President Trump said that Iran's nuclear program was totally obliterated. This term means it was completely wiped out. He insisted that the U.S. military strikes had ended the program permanently. He spoke about key sites in Iran where nuclear activities took place. He stated that these facilities, such as those at Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan, were utterly destroyed by the strikes. He named these locations to show the specific targets that were neutralized. This was the official account presented by the White House. The president and his administration wanted the world to believe the strikes were a major victory. They wanted to assure everyone that Iran could no longer produce nuclear weapons, at least not for a very long time. The message was unmistakable. The U.S. military action was essential, and it functioned flawlessly to stop Iran's dangerous plans. The president's words were delivered with great confidence. He showed the world a picture of complete success, leaving no room for any doubt. He portrayed the strikes as a major achievement for the United States and for global security. The White House firmly supported President Trump's statements. They reiterated that the strikes were highly successful and had a massive impact. They concurred that Iran's capacity to build a nuclear weapon was severely diminished, perhaps even eliminated. The official narrative was that the damage to Iran's nuclear facilities was grave and would have a lasting effect. They stated that Iran was now significantly further from obtaining a nuclear weapon than it was before the strikes. This was the information disseminated to the public and to leaders of other nations. The White House ensured this triumphant message was heard worldwide. They highlighted how successful the military operation was and how it safeguarded the world. They said the strikes accomplished exactly what they were designed to do, even more. The president's words were significant. They were the first official declaration on the outcome of the strikes. They demonstrated how the U.S. government perceived the situation. Immediately after the event, they presented an image of a full and absolute success, without mentioning any potential problems or uncertainties in the damage assessment. President Trump's message was straightforward. The mission was accomplished. Iran's nuclear program was no longer a threat to the world. This was the official truth as presented by the United States government. It was the account from the president himself. He's the most powerful figure in the country. He wanted the world to recognize that the U.S. military action was a great win for America and for peace. He wanted everyone to be convinced that Iran's nuclear ambitions were halted for a very long time, possibly forever. This was the clear message from the White House following the strikes. It was a story of success, told loudly and clearly by the president. His words were firm and definite. He declared the strikes a total success. He stated Iran's program was finished. He asserted it was set back by decades, said crucial sites were completely destroyed. This was the official position presented to the world by President Trump and his administration. 3a. Different story emerges after the president delivered his message. New information began to circulate. News outlets reported on a document from within the government. This paper was not intended for public viewing. It was initially a classified report. It originated from an agency known as the Defense Intelligence Agency, a group that analyzes military intelligence for the government. The paper from the Defense Intelligence Agency presented a different account of the U.S. strikes. It did not claim the strikes had stopped Iran's nuclear plans for many years, nor did it suggest the program was entirely gone. Instead, this government document proposed a different conclusion. It indicated that the strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities likely delayed the program for only a brief period. The paper estimated the delay might be only a few months. This assessment was starkly different from the initial reports. The first reports from the president had claimed a much larger success. They asserted the program was set back by decades, or was perhaps even completely destroyed. This new information created a sense of uncertainty. If a government document stated the strikes only resulted in a minor delay, was the narrative of a major success accurate? People began to ask questions. Did the strikes inflict significant damage, or was the impact minimal, just a few months of delay? The classified paper sowed doubt. It suggested that the nuclear sites, particularly those located deep underground, were not destroyed. This was a critical point, as it implied Iran could potentially restart its program relatively soon. This conflicting report made the situation confusing. Two narratives now existed: the official story of a great success, and the story from the classified paper of a minor success. This discrepancy was crucial for understanding what truly happened. After the strikes, it made it difficult to know the truth. The news media shared the information from the classified paper, which sparked numerous discussions. People worldwide began to wonder which report was correct. Was the president's assessment right, or was the Defense Intelligence Agency's paper more accurate? This uncertainty was a direct result of the conflicting report. 4. The White House responds. After the news reports circulated, there was widespread discussion. The reports conveyed assessments from a classified government paper, which seemed to indicate that the U.S. strikes had not delayed Iran's nuclear plans for very long. This contradicted what President Trump had said. The team at the White House had to respond to these news reports. They disagreed with the classified paper's findings. Officials spoke to the media and issued statements. They declared that the assessments in the paper were entirely incorrect. They used forceful language, describing the paper's conclusions as flat-out wrong. They also suggested that the reports were an attempt to undermine the president. They felt the news stories were presenting an unfair picture of President Trump's actions. The White House team wanted the public to believe the president's original words about the strikes being a great success. Secretary of State Marco Rubio also addressed the situation. He provided a statement that was slightly more measured than the president's initial remarks. He did not claim the strikes caused total destruction, but he emphasized that they were highly significant. Mr. Rubio stated that because of the U.S. action, Iran was now considerably further away from possessing a nuclear weapon. He stressed that this was the most critical outcome. He explained that the strikes inflicted substantial damage across different elements of Iran's nuclear program. He felt the news reports failed to show the complete picture of what occurred. The White House team persistently argued that the U.S. strikes had a major impact. They aimed to correct the narrative that the classified paper appeared to tell. They worked to demonstrate that the Epstein's actions were successful and vital for national security. They maintained that the damage was long-lasting and had impeded Iran's progress for a significant time, not just for a few months. This was their primary message to the public after the conflicting report emerged. 5. Allies ask questions leaders. From many nations, who are friends and allies of the United States, gathered for a major summit. This meeting took place at NATO, an organization of countries that cooperate on safety and defense. At this significant meeting, the leaders discussed the recent events, specifically the U.S. military strikes against Iran. The news reports about the strikes had been confusing. The President of the United States had stated the strikes had a profound effect, claiming Iran's nuclear program was halted for a long time. However, a classified paper from a government agency suggested the impact was much smaller, delaying the program for only a short period. This difference in narratives was challenging for the Allies. They required a clear understanding of the truth. They listened intently as U.S. officials spoke. The U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was present at the meeting. He addressed the classified government paper, stating that its findings were only preliminary. This term implies it was a first assessment, not a final conclusion. He added that it was a low-confidence report, meaning the authors were not completely certain about its findings. Secretary Hegseth aimed to show the Allies that the classified paper did not represent the full story. The Allies listened to Secretary Hegseth and considered the various statements. The President said one thing, classified paper said another, and now the Defense Secretary was saying the paper was uncertain. This was a complex situation for the Allied nations. They collaborate closely with the United States, sharing intelligence and coordinating plans. The situation with Iran is important for all allies, not just the U.S., as they all desire peace and global security. They need reliable information to understand what transpired and what might happen next. The conflicting accounts made this difficult. The Allies need to have trust in the information they get from their primary partner, the United States. At the NATO meeting, the Allies continued their discussion of the issue, sharing their perspectives. And listening to the U.S. position, they sought to understand the true impact of the strikes. The words from the U.S. Defense Secretary helped clarify the U.S. view of the classified paper. However, for many, the questions about the actual results of the strikes remained 6. Life inside Iran, the focus of the story now shifts to the people of Iran. What is life like for them following the recent military strikes? For many Iranians, life has been altered. Things are not the same as they were before the strikes occurred. People sense that their daily life is different now. The future feels ambiguous for many people in Iran. They are unsure of what will happen next, which makes the future feel very uncertain. For some, it is a little frightening because they do not know what is in store for their country and their families. The feeling of not knowing what the next day will bring is powerful for many. They repeatedly ask themselves what will happen next. Before the strikes, there was conflict between Iran and Israel. But at present, ceasefire is in effect, meaning the fighting has paused for now. This ceasefire appears to be holding, which is a positive development. It means there is no active war with Israel at the moment. But even with the ceasefire, the sense of uncertainty about other matters persists. The strikes themselves were a major event that changed the atmosphere. Daily life feels different for many people. Simple routines may feel less stable. People might worry more when they leave home or listen to the news. They might discuss the strikes and their meaning for their nation's future. The general mood in the country is not what it was before. Life feels changed because of the significant events that took place. The strikes had a profound effect on the nation, impacting not just buildings or sites, they also had a major effect on the people who lived there, on their emotions and their sense of security and stability. The people of Iran are living with these changes daily, trying to understand what the future will be like for them and their nation. The government makes statements, and other countries make statements. But for the people, the feeling of uncertainty is real and personal. Life inside. Iran is different now. The normal rhythm has changed. People are looking to the future, but the path ahead seems unclear. They hope for peace and stability for their country and their families, but the recent events, the strikes, and the different stories about what happened have made this hope feel less certain than before. The strikes were a pivotal moment in the country's history, and their consequences are felt by the people every day. Life has changed. The feeling of being unsure about the future is now a part of life. People are trying to carry on, go to work or school, and be with their families. But the uncertainty is a constant presence in the background, like a cloud hanging overhead. They recall life before the strikes and see that it is different now. This difference creates the feeling of uncertainty and anxiety about what could happen next. 7. The big questions. It remains very difficult to know the absolute truth about what happened. In the wake of the military strikes, many questions persist. What was the exact extent of the damage? How long will Iran's nuclear program be delayed? These are major questions. Finding definitive answers is challenging. One primary reason it is so hard to know is the location of the targets. The U.S. strikes hit facilities that are constructed deep underground. Imagine something concealed far beneath the Earth's surface. It is not easy to observe these places from the air or from space. They are shielded by many meters of rock and soil. Because these sites are so deep, it is hard to see precisely what occurred inside them. When bombs impact the surface, the damage below is hidden from view. People cannot simply look and see clearly if the internal structures are broken or if the equipment is destroyed. There is no clear picture or simple evidence that reveals everything that happened. Military experts and analysts try to understand the damage by examining different kinds of information. They might study satellite images from before and after the strikes, but these images may only show the surface, not what is deep below. They might analyze seismic data or look for other signals, but even with this intelligence, the picture is not always clear or easy to interpret, because there is no solid, irrefutable proof that everyone can see and agree upon. Different people arrive at different conclusions. Various groups within the government can look at the same set of information but interpret its meaning differently. Some experts might believe the strikes caused extensive damage and set back the program for a long time. Other experts might analyze the same information and conclude the damage was not as severe, and the program could restart relatively quickly. This is why we hear conflicting stories. It is not always because someone is being untruthful. Sometimes, it is because the truth itself is hidden deep underground, making it hard to see the full picture. Different people are looking at small pieces of the puzzle and forming different opinions about the whole thing. The lack of clear information makes the situation confusing. For the government, for other countries, and for the people of Iran, knowing the real impact of the strikes is critically important. But because the evidence is not clear, the big questions remain. What was the real damage? What does this mean for the future? These questions are difficult to answer when the most crucial information is hidden from sight, far below the ground. 8. What comes next? Following the recent military strikes by the United States against Iran, everyone is asking one major question. What comes next? President Trump stated the strikes delayed Iran's nuclear program for decades. But a classified government report suggested the setback was only a few months. This vast difference in assessment makes the future highly uncertain. Knowing the true impact of the strikes is essential for deciding the next course of action. If the damage was minimal, Iran might be able to rebuild its program quickly, which could mean increased danger in the near future. If the damage was substantial, there might be more time to pursue a peaceful resolution, because there is no definitive evidence about the actual damage. Different people have different ideas about the best path forward. For President Trump and the U.S. government, difficult choices lie ahead. Should they attempt to initiate talks with Iran to forge a new agreement, or should they brace for more conflict, such as potential retaliatory attacks or further military actions? Different factions within the U.S. government may hold opposing views on this. Based on their own intelligence and understanding of the situation, the future of the relationship between the United States and Iran is unclear. Will the tension persist and possibly escalate? Or can the two nations find a way to de-escalate the conflict? This is a vital question, not just for the U.S. and Iran, but for countries across the globe. The events also have a significant impact on peace and stability in the Middle East. Will the region become more peaceful, or will it see more conflict? A ceasefire between Israel and Iran is currently holding, but no one knows how long it will last. Other countries in the Middle East are concerned about what might happen next and are monitoring the situation very closely. For the ordinary people living in Iran, the future feels extremely uncertain and worrisome. Their daily lives have been disrupted by the strikes and the ongoing tension. They do not know what the future has in store for their country or for themselves. It is still hard to know exactly what transpired during the strikes, because some of the targeted facilities were deep underground. This makes obtaining clear information difficult. Different intelligence agencies in the U.S. will continue to analyze the situation, but they may still disagree on the results. This story is not over. The events of the past few days have raised many large questions that demand answers. What is the true status of Iran's nuclear program? What will Iran choose to do next? What will the United States choose to do next? The path forward is not clear. Leaders in the U.S., Iran, and other nations face difficult decisions. The choices they make now will be incredibly important. They will shape the future of the Middle East and have effects around the world for many years to come. The world is watching and waiting to see what comes next.